And here we go, back at it again. I hope you're well, warm, and some other third thing. Remember to like and subscribe because this time we will be tackling some of the worst antagonists in anime history. And just so we're clear, yes, the title says villain, but what is a villain? Is there such thing as evil? Who are we to judge? So let's get judging, starting with the quirkiest underboss to ever do it, All For One, who, if I'm honest, I have no idea what AFO wanted. Like, at first I thought maybe he had some real goal in mind, like something he could actually accomplish and feel satisfied with, but slowly it became more and more obvious that he was more of a concept or a metaphor than he was a villain. And I think as a whole, let's just take a moment to recognize that villains who just want to take over the world, regardless of their backstory, the goal they have is usually well past any ambitions they have. Like, it's not like they want to rule the world to start a space colony or build a new system infrastructure. Like, they just want to take over the world, which, what does that even mean? What do you want the world at large to do that the people in your immediate surroundings can't? And it's always this open-ended goal that feels like more questions needed to be asked. Like, do you want to be the king of the world and, like, govern it? Or do you just want no rules anarchy mode? Which I would say, well, you wouldn't really be running that world now, would you? And I guess you could do whatever you wanted as long as you're powerful, but that's pretty much the case in any society. Even in a perfect society, the powerful have the ability to run rampant. They just choose not to do that. And I gotta let one fly on old No Face here. A lot of the anime worlds we see are not like ours, so it's easier to believe that they don't operate like us, and the rules and laws of any particular society may be vastly different from ours. But my hero is not like that. It's pretty much our world just with superpowers. So my biggest thing with All For One is that the things he does in this society don't make sense even for a purely evil character. Halfway through the series, I just had a momentary epiphany, like, at what point does All Might stop fighting All For One and just start questioning what is even happening? Like, why are you manipulating my teacher's grandson into being a pawn just to take a dig at me? And that took literally years of your life. You could have been planning something more, I don't know, sane and useful. And just for me, any villain that ever tried to get their youth back lost points for me, just because a lot of the time they seem way less menacing in their older form. And while it makes sense that physically you'd be better off at a younger state, it's mostly portrayed to be a power thing tied to whatever magic system is in play. However, because Big AFO was basically ground meat in a suit, I can see why he'd want another body, but still not my type of villain. But you know who has it worse? Muzan Kibutsubi. Kibichi? Kibbles and bits, fuck it. Because Muzan not only has unclear goals beyond finding a blue flower that makes it so he can walk in the sunlight again. What strikes me so crazy about Muzan is that he had so many other options that don't involve him getting blown to high hell. And you may want to grab a snack for this one, because instead of making every wrong move there was, Muzan could have not waited hundreds of years to come out of hiding, and he most likely would have been able to take care of any Hashira and Ubuyashiki, and would have been able to look for the Blue Lily in peace, which from the way he was completely stumped to the point of becoming a certified chemist, still would have taken hundreds if not thousands of years. Which brings me to B. Muzan is effectively immortal. He could have just waited longer. The generations of Demon Slayer were already as weak as they had ever been. He could have waited another 200 years, and for all he knows, the Demon Slayers may not even be around. Which brings me to C. Why didn't Muzan just kill Tanjiro the moment he saw him? And you could say he had PTSD or whatever, but he doesn't even think Tanjiro is a threat at first, which is why he goes out of his way to turn a random person into a demon in public, as opposed to just killing everyone in the area and leaving the way he has done before, which is incredibly not villain-like. And yeah, plot reasons, but it always sucks when something like that happens, because it means I have to deduct points from the villain just based off the fact that they forego the easiest and most likely to succeed strategy for them, giving the heroes or protagonists a way wider margin for winning, almost like we're working backwards from the protagonist must win rule. And what's worse is, Muzan suffers from a popular little sickness I like to call baseless evil. It's when a character is just evil for evil's sake, and not like they don't have a sad backstory. I mean, they stand for nothing. There is no greater context as to why they are doing what they are doing. And this is where you see the rule the world trope come in, because they have nothing else to offer and they aren't trying to specifically change anything. They don't even particularly dislike how things already are. They just want to rule the world, which mostly equates to either kill everyone or just the people I want to kill. These types never want to rule the world so they can own everything or boss people around, because most times they already do that. They just want to kill indiscriminately, and a secondary thing is that people will obey them. So it's a very one-lane street. Now, let's talk about a different side of the pillow. Beerus. Beerus is hardly an antagonist. Even in the movie he's introduced, where he's the main draw, Beerus really has no goals, no targets. He barely even has a reason to be awake, let alone interacting with the main cast. And unlike Muzan or Afo, it's Beerus' job to be evil, and he doesn't even do that. We barely see Beerus destroying anything other than pudding, and so far he's become much more of a friend than he likes to present. To the point where I'm sure they're chain pulling us that the fight between Beerus and Goku and or Vegeta will never happen, but I'm not really worried about that because there are so many other things we need to tackle in Dragon Ball. So let's rip on Naruto, because you knew Kaguya was on this list. It's almost like a free spot in bingo. Kaguya is the definition of not so good. Kaguya does two things that impact the series in a very big way. One, she retcons the way chakra works, and two, reveals the existence and importance of aliens, which we don't talk about that enough. The Otsutsuki are aliens and travel through space, and even if Naruto's entire universe is just the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, the Otsutsuki would be aliens because they did not come from Earth. And to be honest, Kaguya is less of a villain or antagonist and more of a plot device designed to usher in the age of Boruto. And I wish they would have separated those storylines with hard borders, because the attempt at a seamless transition was all but destroyed the moment Kaguya's backstory had to be laid out. It's messy and doesn't make a lot of sense. Even today, almost 7 years later, Kaguya is long gone and we're still learning shoddy things about her that may or may not turn out to be true or false in the future or past. And if that was confusing, then now you get Kaguya. So, on to an antagonist who is not a villain, which is why I've been using villain and antagonist interchangeably, Nier from Death Note, who is probably the worst offender on this list because he's so meh. It's not even that he's bad, he's just so bland, which should be hard to do as a clone of L. And if it wasn't for the way things ended, I could totally believe Nier was only created to give Mello proper contextual motivation, as he was more interested in proving himself to be better than Nier than actually solving the case or being L's successor. And Nier was just Nier. And I feel like I have to explain that was Nier as in close, not his name, although that would be the play on words I was going for, but because I've had to explain it, it feels a lot less witty than in my head, but it's cool. Cause our last stop on the list is a backtrack. Yep, back to Dragon Ball. But this time, GT, which had a few of these, but in hindsight, the Shadow Dragons might be the biggest disappointment I've ever encountered in anime, which is sad, because this concept should have been an easy layup and could have been the pinnacle of anime, but alas, the Shadow Dragons fall under every bar they come up against. They lack in the power department, the design, the characterization, the motivation, the plot movement. Some of them are outright not dragon material, and it's why they get dealt with in an episode or less. And these dragons are goofy in a bad way that makes it hard to even understand what they were going for beyond fight the Dragon Balls, because we don't get too long with any one dragon or the places Goku and Pan visit. Side note, why did only Pan and Goku take this quest? Pan had to sneak onto it, so everyone was just gonna let Goku handle it alone. And boy, I wish I had a sigh hard enough to convey to you that that makes no sense in any way. It makes the Shadow Dragons look even weaker, because Vegeta, Trunks, Gohan, Piccolo, Goten, they are all nowhere to be seen, yet Goku and Pan take this whole problem on alone, and Pan never even gets close to getting Saiyan strong, much less Super Saiyan. And now, that has nothing to do with the Shadow Dragons, but is just to say, not only were they bad in execution, nothing happening around them was good. And, oh man, they did Omega Shenron dirty. Like, design-wise, I could take it or leave it, but everything else is just not up to par. Even Omega's final attack is just kind of brushed off. And then he spirit bombed so unceremoniously, it almost feels like the end of GT was an afterthought and Goku's end is what really mattered, which is just so annoying and uninsightful that I just... You know what? I think a GT retrospective video is in the works, but with that, that's all I've got. These were some of the worst antagonists I've ever encountered, and I'd love to know what some of yours are. Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the video, because I appreciate you watching, and until next time, peace.
That thunder on me clap, make a nigga think before he act. Have a nigga dying on his back, then we double back. Shooters leaving rubber where you at. That's why niggas never wanna match.